Tonight on 6 on Your Side, that tragic mass stabbing attack on a child's birthday party in Boise this weekend claims its first young victim.
This as the community rallies around the refugee families affected, and a suspect appears in court charged with first-degree murder.
Also new tonight, a Meridian police officer is released from the hospital after being shot twice in another deadly incident this weekend.
And in weather, one more pleasant, cool day coming on, and in fact cooler than today, but the century mark and a rising fire danger in my 6 on Your Side forecast coming up.
6 on Your Side at 10 starts now.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Michelle Edmonds.
And I'm Don Nelson. Our top story at 10, a 3-year-old girl is dead. She's the first victim to die of her injuries after an attack this weekend that left the toddler and 8 others seriously wounded.
Don police say that suspect, angry that he had been kicked out of an apartment complex, showed up at that 3-year-old's birthday party Saturday night and just started stabbing people.
Tonight, the community gathering at a vigil and rallying around the refugee families affected. Roland Barris kicks off our team coverage.
Don, Michelle, the city of Boise made a statement today that Boise will not stand for the kind of violence that took place over the weekend. Close to 5,000 people turned out in front of City Hall to show their support for the families shattered by the violence. Along with a sea of flowers, Boiseans brought heavy hearts and steely determination.
A random act from someone outside of our community does not define us. But what will define us as a community is how that suffering brings us together, just as it has tonight.
Thousands came to demonstrate their support for the 9 families affected by the mass stabbing, so many that Capitol Boulevard was shut down in advance. There were many signs in the crowd, but none perhaps more heart-wrenching than this.
I hope that there's a better understanding of how we all need to stand together and that we need to strike out hate. Hate is not the appropriate emotion for the human race. It's love.
There's no official word the stabbing attack was a hate crime, but those in attendance say it should serve as a reminder anyway that we are all the same.
And it's not just because they're refugees that we're here, it's because they're our kids, they're Boise's kids.
In the end, a community realizing that together we're stronger.
Being here allows us to take the first step past despair and ultimately allows us to reclaim hope.
Roland Barris, 6 on Your Side.
Today, the suspect, 30-year-old Timmy Kinner from Los Angeles, appeared in Ada County Court.
He is facing a first-degree murder charge along with 8 counts of aggravated battery. As 6 on Your Side has reported, Kinner was temporarily staying with a resident at the Weil Lane Apartments. He was asked to leave on Friday because of his behavior. Boise Police Chief Bill Bones says Kinner returned the next night to exact revenge. Kinner telling a judge today he wanted to represent himself in the case. The judge appointed a public defender.
Do you understand what you've been charged with now, sir?
No, sir.
What don't you understand?
I don't understand none of this, sir.
Prosecutors point out a first-degree murder charge brings the possibility of a death penalty.
First-degree murder is a qualification for the death penalty, but I can't answer that at this time without reviewing everything. It would not be appropriate. So we'll look at everything and review all the facts and circumstances and make that decision when we have that information.
A judge today denied Kinner bond and set his preliminary hearing in 2 weeks.
While the Boise community is gathering tonight to mourn and show solidarity, the local refugee community, as you can imagine, is still reeling from Saturday's senseless violence.
All of the stabbing victims coming to Boise as refugees from Syria, Iraq, and Ethiopia. Faith leaders are stepping in to help the community and the families cope with the tragedy. 6 on Your Side's Madeline White continues our team coverage.
Many of the victims of Saturday's attack are members of a Boise Muslim congregation, a group still struggling to cope with the injury and death in the tight-knit community. A community reeling with sorrow after Saturday's horrific stabbing that took the life of a 3-year-old girl and caused serious injuries to 8 others. An especially trying time, however, for those who know the victims personally from their shared place of worship at the Islamic Center of Boise. President of the center, Muntaga Ba, visited the victims at St. Luke's Hospital this morning.
In the hospital, I actually saw him at the picnic, he went home and got attacked with the knife. That's how everything happened.
Ba was hosting an Islamic Center picnic alongside the father of one of the child victims, who was also a victim himself, on Saturday when somebody texted him with news from the incident.
It was really like I just saw him. I actually spoke with him.
This morning, he finally heard from the victims when he got a call from an unknown number.
Earlier today, one of the kids, he called me, and at first I was like, hello, who is this? And a language barrier, of course. It took a minute, but then I put one and one together. I finally said, Salamu alaikum, which is peace be upon you. And then that kind of excited him a little bit. Then he responded, and we communicated. I communicated with the mom.
The child asked if he could pay him a visit to where he was staying at St. Luke's Hospital.
I could feel my body tensing up. I was just saddened by seeing them, shaking their hands, saying, Assalamu alaikum, how are you guys doing? And I saw one of the brothers that got attacked. He got stabbed in the chest, and his face has some stitches.
The road to recovery will be difficult, but it will be eased by the outpouring of community support the victims have received.
Thank you very much for the community, Islamic Center of Boise, and the Muslim community, refugee community. Thanks everybody here in Boise for your overwhelming support.
The Islamic Center of Boise has added an option on their website to donate directly to the victims for their medical bills. President Ba would like to thank the Boise community for their support. He also tells us he is interested in organizing a candlelight vigil at the apartment complex sometime this week, so be on the lookout for that.
Madeline White reporting. In addition to the child who died, one child has been treated and released from the hospital. 6 other survivors remain hospitalized.
As you can imagine, this is still a developing story. We've been following it for you all weekend, and we'll continue to bring you the very latest on this tragedy. For all of our coverage, just head to our website, 6onyourside.com.
An update to another developing story. A Meridian police officer shot twice in the leg, and the officer involved shooting is out of that hospital tonight. Officer Kyle Mikowski is expected to make a full recovery.
That's some good news. Today, authorities also naming the suspect who was shot and killed in the Sunday afternoon shootout as 33-year-old Daniel Norris of Meridian. 6 on your side, Steve Dent brings us the latest.
A Meridian police officer attempted to pull over a suspect that had an outstanding warrant. However, that suspect took off. The officer gave chase, and as he closed the gap, the man turned and pulled out a gun.
When I got the call yesterday, it was like a kick to the stomach.
The officer got shot twice in the calf, but he fired back, killing the man.
Shot for him, shot! Okay, we're coming to you, buddy. Hold on.
While law enforcement started flooding the scene, 2 bystanders helped comfort the officer while notifying police of their exact location.
Those 2 citizens, we can't thank them enough. What they did and them coming to the aid of our officer was just, it's almost something beyond words.
Meanwhile, there were 2 other people that were in the vehicle who fled the scene. However, since one man has turned himself in, and police say that man is being treated as a witness.
We don't feel like there's any danger to the public, but the female is still outstanding in this case.
And the police officer, to the relief of all law enforcement, has made his way home from the hospital after a very traumatic experience.
Yeah, he's doing very well. Obviously shaken by the incident, but he's doing very well. We expect a full recovery. And
Steve Dent, 6 on your side.
The Ada County Sheriff's Office has taken over this investigation, which is protocol following an officer-involved shooting. Coming up on 6 on your side, a new law taking effect this week will change the way Idaho police and prosecutors handle cases involving drug overdoses.
And if you thought it was cool and comfortable today, look at this. Cooler than what it was today. That's what's headed in for tomorrow. But don't get too used to it. I'll have a heat up in my On Your Side forecast next.
You're watching 6 on Your Side with Don Nelson, Michelle Edmonds, and Scott Dorval with the On Your Side forecast. Now, Chief Meteorologist Scott Dorval with the On Your Side forecast.
All right, today we had those temperatures well below average, about 6 degrees below where we should be at 82 today. And look at tomorrow, only 77 degrees for a high temperature and 49 during the morning. In the 40s everywhere in the valley tomorrow morning, yet we could see the century mark on Thursday. So with July 4th right here in the middle, I'm expecting 93 to 95 for a high temperature on Wednesday. And then we stay near 100 through Friday. Potential dip here on Saturday, but still hot. And then I saw some searing heat. I think these numbers may change here, even on Sunday and Monday. I'm going to keep a close eye on this because what I'm seeing in the upper atmosphere is warmth that can support temperatures several degrees above 100. We'll see if that actually makes it into the northwest. It did show it that way. We'll keep an eye on it for you. In the meantime, here's the fire danger looking at tomorrow evening as the wind is picking up in the driest time of day. This is where the highest fire danger should be in the valley and eastern sections. We've got a red flag warning around central Oregon, but that's in effect for tonight and it will expire. Hopefully that's the gusty wind coming through tonight. So a higher fire danger starting to move into the northwest, and you see it right in here over Utah, expecting to see high fire danger as well. This has been the case for some time, and now as we begin to heat up, as that heat moves up from south to north, we'll be seeing some changes coming on in. Take a look at the heat across the nation. Nice cool here in our little pocket here in the northwest. Hot and dry, still heat advisories around the Phoenix area today at 108 degrees, yet you look at Dallas at 101, D.C. 95. It felt close to 108 here today as they've had just a tremendous amount of moisture again. We had all that heat in the east. Now the moisture is pushing to the east. A dew point of 78 in D.C. It just doesn't get much worse than that. That's just the high dew point means lots of moisture in the air, and it is just pea soup. Basically in the east, heat advisories and excessive heat warnings. Hopefully just one more day of this, and then it will get back to some more bearable levels. In McCall today, 45 degrees. No worries with heat here. Temperatures being real comfortable. Look how clear that sky is. Nice and dry. So what's the forecast? Tomorrow we were in the today we were in the mid 60s. Tomorrow similar, about 64. Chilly in the morning at 39. It's going to be a chilly start to the day, but look at the change. On July 4th, we're up to 80 degrees. But at night, there's a slight chance for some isolated storms as the sun goes down. It will probably end up just being partly cloudy and fine. But just keep an eye on those because those can give some gusty breezes and maybe some lightning. It's not likely, though. Thursday at 87 degrees. Now, the further east we go to Sun Valley, 68 degrees. A very comfortable day coming up tomorrow. On Wednesday, July 4th, I expect in the evening after sunshine all day. This is the best location to be getting the chance for some thunderstorms if they do form in some of the mountains. This is further east you go is more favorable for that. It's just a slight chance, but I'll update that coming up tomorrow. But it is warming dramatically. Look at that, from 68 Tuesday to 86 during the day on Thursday. So very pleasant conditions overhead. A reinforcing shot of cooler weather will come on through, and that will bring the temperatures down even more tomorrow. But once that cool weather sweeps through, the heat will come blasting up from the south, and as it does, our temperatures are going to skyrocket to near 100 degrees. So take a look at these pleasant temperatures. Blue skies overhead, a breeze during the day tomorrow, especially east of Boise, about 77, 76 degrees depending where you are in the valley. That's pretty comfortable. Garden Valley at 77, but Pine and Featherville staying in the 60s. Same thing up in McCall. There's a chance for an isolated shower as that front goes through. But look at Stanley tomorrow morning, 33 degrees in the morning, then 66 in the afternoon, 70 in Fairfield. And the Magic Valley tomorrow, I expect temperatures in the 70s. Beautiful day, some gusty breezes, but you know what? That's not so bad. Look at this extended forecast here. Big change from tomorrow, and they turned those sprinklers on. I went home and I got them turned on for a few more days here as we go up to near 100 degrees on Thursday and Friday. And I think next week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of the following week, this big old fat H with pink colors around it, that usually means 100 degrees or better.
We looked at each other and kind of snarled.
I just remember our predictions for the 100 degrees.
Yeah, I have them written down.
I know you do.
I'll be showing that graphic on our first 100-degree day. Each 100-degree day, we're going to go over our predictions on how many we think for the season.
Okay. You're going to wish you went with me. Thanks, Scott. In tonight's Making the Grade, more Idaho students will have access to fruits and vegetables next school year. More than 100 lower-income elementary schools will give out the nutritious food. The federal government chose the schools based on the highest enrollment in the free and reduced meal program. Organizers say introducing new foods to children is an important part of learning. Well, coming up on 6 on Your Side, a new Good Samaritan law aims to cut down on the number of fatal opioid overdoses in Idaho. We're going to explain how it works.
6 on Your Side at 10 continues now.
A new law taking effect this week will change the way Idaho police and prosecutors handle cases involving drug overdoses.
The goal behind the so-called Good Samaritan law is pretty simple. People want to save lives. 6 on Your Side's Karen Lair explains in tonight's Finding Hope.
Well, Donna Michelle, with the law now in place, Idaho becomes the 42nd state in the country offering partial immunity to a person who calls 911 while witnessing or experiencing an overdose. Ultimately, lawmakers hope it will encourage those fearful of arrest to pick up the phone and call for help.
I'm really hoping that we're going to start seeing kind of a reduction in these.
Ada County Coroner Dottie Owens hopes a new Idaho law will help lower the number of deadly drug overdose victims brought into her office.
Knocking on that door at 2 in the morning and telling individuals that their loved one has died and it's from an overdose, that's pretty tough.
The law, introduced this legislative session by Boise Representative Sue Chu, will now prevent the calling party from facing charges for being under the influence or in possession of a controlled substance. Simply put, call for paramedics and you won't go to jail.
There are many people that are affected by this disease called addiction, and they have so much to give. And for their lives to be snuffed out for this or any other kind of situation, if it's avoidable, let's do it, because I want the person that can save another person's life to have their life.
But prosecutors and police entering the uncharted territory with unlimited what ifs will likely be addressing calls on a case-by-case basis, raising endless questions. What if multiple people are present? Who gets immunity? And what if they have outstanding warrants for other crimes?
And those are the questions that we're still dealing with, because do you give immunity just to the caller, and then how do we know who exactly the caller was, and is it worth the time to investigate that?
The law, as written, only applies specifically to the calling party and only defends against specific charges.
Obviously, it's new to all of us, and so we're trying to decide how we're going to implement this.
But states already implementing similar laws are seeing a dramatic change.
Communities that have actually enacted this Good Samaritan law have reduced their opioid deaths by 33%. That's a pretty significant number.
Significant, to say the least, for the individuals saved by first responders with Narcan.
It pops on.
The opioid overdose antidote.
And then it simply sprays a mist up into the nose.
Owen says she's personally seen fatal cases where overdose victims didn't die alone.
We've had several cases that have come through here where the individual that was overdosed or overdosing was dumped outside and they took off, or they cleaned up and left him on the couch, or so there's been several that I can think of that would have been saved had someone called it in.
In next Monday's installment of Finding Hope, we'll take a deeper look at how the opioid epidemic is impacting the coroner's office and how the Ada County coroner herself plans to be a part of the solution. Reporting live in studio, I'm Karen Lair, 6 on Your Side.
Coming up on 6 on Your Side, the president's longtime personal lawyer and self-described fixer speaking out and raising questions about whether he may now cooperate in the Russia probe. President Trump's longtime personal attorney, Michael Cohen, is speaking out and possibly signaling a willingness to work with special counsel Robert Mueller.
The embattled lawyer giving his first in-depth interview since the FBI raided his home and office back in April. The president's so-called fixer once said, quote, "I will do anything to protect Mr. Trump." But now, asked by ABC's George Stephanopoulos what he would do if offered leniency in exchange for testimony in the Russia probe, Cohen says he will, quote, "put family and country first."
Mr. President, is Michael Cohen going to flip, sir? Will Michael Cohen flip, sir?
Thank you very much. In the Oval Office today, President Trump, as you just saw, ignoring questions on the subject. In the past, he has predicted Cohen would not turn against him. Cohen now telling Stephanopoulos, quote, "I will not be a punching bag as part of anyone's defense strategy," adding that I am not a villain in the story and I will not allow others to try to depict me that way, end quote.
Another possible setback for President Trump, as a new report suggests North Korea is still producing material for nuclear weapons. According to the Washington Post, U.S. intelligence officials believe North Korea has no plans to surrender its entire nuclear arsenal and is instead looking at ways to conceal it. This is satellite images show construction at one of North Korea's missile production facilities.
There's not any starry-eyed feeling among the group doing this, that we're well aware of what the North Koreans have done in the past.
The news comes nearly 3 weeks, of course, after President Trump became the first sitting U.S. president to meet with a sitting North Korean leader. Critics say the president conceded too much, legitimizing the Kim regime with that meeting, while coming away with no concrete agreement or timeline for denuclearization.
A seeming miracle in Thailand, where 12 boys and their soccer coach have been found alive after going missing in a flooded cave 10 days ago.
Pretty incredible. The boys aged 11 to 16 disappeared back on June 23rd. Officials believe the group went into the cave to explore when monsoon rains and floods caught them off guard and then trapped them. About 1,000 volunteers and emergency teams from around the world, including one from the U.S. military, responded. They've worked nonstop to assist with the search, but it's still a little too early to celebrate.
So they've confirmed 13 people alive. They're very weak. The patrols went in. One medic stayed behind with them. And tomorrow morning, we're going for an extraction plan.
Those in charge of the rescue say the decision now is whether to try to evacuate the boys through and under that water or supply them in place. They say trying to take non-divers through a cave is one of the most dangerous situations possible. Rescuers are also under time pressure because there's another massive torrential downpour that's in the forecast for Wednesday.
Another amazing rescue story, this time at sea. A crew member from a Norwegian cruise ship is safely pulled from the ocean nearly 24 hours after going overboard just north of Cuba. This after the Coast Guard called off the search after combing 1,600 square miles on Saturday. Then on Sunday, a worker on another cruise ship spotted the 33-year-old, and rescuers used a lifeboat to pull him to safety.
We saw the cruise ship made a U-turn and started heading back, and then we noticed that all the crew members were using binoculars trying to find the crew member in the ocean.
The rescued man now recovering in stable condition.
Wow. Well, here's a live look from our camera on top of the Red Lion Hotel, part of the Toyota Dealers Tower Cam network. Pretty night out there, a cool day tomorrow, but wait till you see what's in store next in Scott's forecast.
All right, one more nice day to get outside and kind of batten down the hatches for the heat, I guess, right? If you've got outdoor plans, breezy, cool, comfortable, 77, and then 2 days later, the century mark, and everybody disappears.
Yeah.
Remember all that yard work you were going to do on Thursday?
Tuesday.
Wow.
Tuesday. Good night.
The extended forecast has been brought to you by Steve's Hometown Toyota.